Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and are done wrong. Here we go.
This following
Skip to the very beginning. Usually just a bunch of useless crap.
And you are back to arrest of a suspect. Viewer discretion is advised. On Saturday, December 18, 2021, at approximately 7:26 p.m., two deputies assigned to the Norwalk Sheriff Station conducted a patrol check of a hotel parking lot located in the 12,500 block of Firestone Boulevard in the city of Norwalk. The deputies observed a vehicle in the parking lot occupied by a male and conducted a license plate check of the parked vehicle. The license plate return indicated it was a felony vehicle and the occupant was considered to be armed and dangerous. Additional details indicated 32-year-old Nicholas Hernandez, a known gang member, was wanted for assault with a firearm and discharging a firearm at an inhabited dwelling. That incident occurred in the city of Pico Rivera on December 11, 2021. The male inside the vehicle was later determined to be Nicholas Hernandez. As the deputies were receiving the license plate return information, Hernandez drove out of the parking lot and sped away from the deputies. The deputies initiated a vehicle pursuit of Hernandez onto Interstate 5 until he exited southbound Valley View Avenue and they lost sight of him.
43 Key 1 status on 1029 Frank, armed and dangerous vehicle.
Hey, 1033, give me a patch.
1033, go, you're in the pouch.
Hey, 43 Key 1, you're going to be in pursuit of a 245 Frank David vehicle. If you're going eastbound to hotel, you can still check on arrow.
Is there not to respond in 1?
43 Adam, 1, 43 Adam.
43 Adam in 1. And 43 Key 1 just confirming plate is 2014 Lexus E35 black in color, and how many occupants? 46 Key 1.
Hey, we're going to be going eastbound, Rosecrans from Bloomfield.
Eastbound Rosecrans from Bloomfield.
We're going on the 5 south from Rosecrans.
Copy, you're getting on the 5 southbound from Rosecrans.
We're going to be 5 south, approaching Carmenita. These are about 80.
Copy, 5 south approaching Carmenita, 80 miles an hour. Do you know how many occupants?
Okay, good notify TSP. We're still continuing 5 south, passing Carmenita.
Continuing 5 south.
Arrow in 3.
Arrow in 3 and 43 Key 1, speed and traffic.
Car is going to be continuing 5 south. It's blacked out on the freeway.
Copy, continuing southbound 5, the vehicle is blacked out.
5 south, these are approximately 90 miles an hour, approaching south.
90 miles an hour approaching Valley.
Okay, we're going to be heading onto a Valley View.
Exiting the freeway onto Valley View, and confirm there's a SAM unit responding.
Hey, we're southbound Valley View from the 5.
Southbound Valley View from the 5 SAM unit.
40 Sam.
Copy, 40 SAM. Arrow, your ETA.
2.5.
Copy, 2.5.
Hey, 451, we lost Oz in the vehicle. We're in a 22-hour pursuit. Now let me get you to check the area.
What is the vehicle description?
Hey, it's going to be a black Lexus. It's a 2014 Lexus. I believe it's an IS. It's going to be a plate of...
What was the last direction?
Hey, southbound Valley View from the 5 freeway.
I copy. Does that tinted windows or anything else on it?
Yeah, it's a firm. It's going to be all blacked out in the windows.
And units, just be advised on miscellaneous, it's indicating the suspect is Nicholas Hernandez, male Hispanic, DLD 813 of 89, gang moniker, wanted for assault with a firearm, 245 PC, discharged firearm at an inhabited dwelling, impound vehicle when recovered.
A few minutes later, a deputy driving a patrol motorcycle located Hernandez as he drove northbound on Interstate 5 freeway, approaching Norwalk Boulevard. A sheriff's helicopter flew overhead and followed Hernandez for approximately 14 minutes as deputies pursued him on surface streets in the city of Downey. Hernandez proceeded to drive eastbound on Gallatin Road, and as he turned south onto Downey and Sanford Bridge Road, he lost control of his vehicle and collided with a civilian vehicle which was traveling north on Downey and Sanford Bridge Road. Hernandez then exited his vehicle and fled on foot.
All right, we'll back this up. So, two things here. We'll start with the tactics of the vehicle here. So he gets out, he bails out, and it does not appear to me as though any officers actually clear this vehicle. Now, at least not on the driver's side. It looks like everyone who runs driver's side just completely runs past it. Now, on the passenger side, you see you'll see their legs right here, and you'll see them go behind the vehicle. Right there. I don't even think he paused long enough to be able to clear the vehicle, but...
On foot.
Yeah, so I don't even think anybody has cleared this vehicle. So that is a concern to me, that everyone is just blindly running past this car and no one has stopped to think, hey, maybe there's someone else in here. Maybe I should stop and see. So definitely, suspect vehicles that come to a stop. If you're at the tail end of the group, like, I can understand that first person, being in hot pursuit, and they could blow right past that vehicle. But if there's, as many as you see here, and you're the last one out, you're probably not going to be contributing much to that pursuit, unless you are the fucking roadrunner out of them all, right? Like, you're going to be the one passing them all up and then closing the distance. Like, unless you're that kind of dude and you're at the tail end of the group, you should probably just stop and clear that vehicle. Make sure that vehicle is clear. There's no one else in there. There could be a bad guy in there. They could have been laying down during this whole time and never got spotted during the pursuit, etc. All right. Second issue. This woman right here who comes out of her house.
He lost control of his vehicle and collided with a civilian vehicle which was traveling north on...
All right. So at this point, I would say that she is out of the house when this occurs. It's not like this happened and then she just jumped out the fucking front door and then got in her car. So I think she was outside when this occurred. We don't have any audio on the camera, but it's got to be loud. That the helicopter flying overhead and the damn spotlight that's shining around the ground. 1, the sound of the helicopter. 2, the sound of the police sirens. 3, the sound of the screeching tires as he's starting to lose control. And 4, the sound of the impact of his vehicle. Plus, the sights of the spotlight from the helicopter, the flashing lights from the police cars, and then potentially seeing the suspect vehicle crash into the victim's vehicle, on top of all the other shit, seeing and hearing all the lights and everything. That should have been a clear indication that some serious shit was going down, and you need to get your fucking ass back in the house and lock that door. There's no need to be outside when this shit's going on. It doesn't even appear as though there's even a person in the driver's seat of this car. And where the hell, if there was, where the fuck are they going to go? They're not going to be able to easily back out of their driveway because of this shit right here blocking them. She just comes out, gets in the
Downey and
passenger
Sanford
seat.
Bridge Road. Hernandez then exited his vehicle and fled on foot.
Like what the hell is she thinking? This is not the place where you want to be. Inside is a better place. One, this dude could have tried and taken her hostage. This dude could have thought that maybe she had the keys to the car and tried to hijack the vehicle and take off in it. He could have come over here, took the vehicle as cover and engaged in a shootout with the police, and they're going to return fire, and he's shooting through. She could be in the crossfire and get shot up like Swiss cheese. It's just not a good place to be. And there were several indicators that this was not a good move to make. Like, you had to have heard all the fucking commotion from the helicopter outside and the police sirens, and hear the fucking screeching noises, and then the boom, the impact. Yeah. So, big fail on her part.
A sheriff's helicopter was overhead and directed the deputies to Hernandez, who was standing on the front porch of a residence in the 9500 block of Raveler Drive. While Hernandez stood facing the front door of the residence, several deputies attempted to detain him at gunpoint. Hernandez turned to face two deputies, pointed a handgun at them, and a deputy-involved shooting occurred.
Got a gun? Fucking...
Okay. So what's he doing at this door? I highly doubt that he is trying to pretend like he's supposed to be there and he's just at his own front door, right? What is most likely happening is he's trying to gain entry into this house with the possible intention of taking hostages or taking the keys to a car from whoever's inside the house and taking off in their car. So from a home defense standpoint, people knocking on your door or ringing the doorbell, if you know that friends or family are coming over to visit and the doorbell rings or you hear the door knock, you should still keep that door closed and ask who it is through the door. Or if you've got a viewfinder, you can look out the viewfinder and see that it's your friend or family, and then you can open the door. But if you don't have a way to actually visually verify who's on the other side of that door, you should keep that door closed and locked and verbally challenge who's out there. And if you recognize the voice as your friend or your family member, then obviously you know who they are. You can let them in. Unless it's one of those friends or family members that always wants to borrow money and never pays it back. But never open your door. Even when you know that people are coming over, do not immediately open it. It may not be them. For people that when you challenge them through the door and you don't know who they are, do not open that door. Even if they give you a really good sob story about the car breaking down, they've been hurt in some way, no. Keep the door locked. If they need police, you can call the police for them. They can stay on the porch, and you can talk to them through the closed, locked door. Some people may think that's rude. I don't give a shit if it's rude. My safety and security overrules anything to deal with, rudeness. And the same should be for you. Like, you should not be worried about hurting someone's feelings. You should be worried about someone hurting you. Nothing wrong with talking to people through closed, locked doors. And when you do go to your door to see who the hell it is, you should have your gun. You should have your gun in your hand. That way, if they try to force that door open on you, or you've got a chain on it, and you open the door, and it only opens as far as the chain goes, and then they try to force it that way, or as soon as you get to the door and they try to kick it in, you've got that gun on you, right there, in your hand. And if they were to breach that door, which it's easier than what you think to breach a door. I've kicked in a lot of doors before, and it's super easy. It is. I mean, just give one good swift kick, and that door's coming open. And if you're at the door, and you don't have your gun in your hand, and that door, boom, pops open, and your gun is all the way back in your bedroom, you're not going to be able to go back there to your room and get that gun in time. That person's going to be on you. So always answer your door armed, and never open the door to anyone unless you absolutely know who they are. Now, I made the joke earlier about, if it's some family member that, always asks for money or something like that. Now, if it is a family member that has obvious drug problems and crime problems, then you're gonna have to come to a realization that a person experiencing those problems needs more help than what you can provide them. And just like a stray cat, if you feed a stray cat food, guess what? It's going to keep coming back. So if you got a family member that's a drug addict and they come around asking for money and you give them money, guess what? They're going to keep coming around because they know you're going to be giving it up. So for those situations, it sucks, but you just gotta, even if you got the money, lie. Say, I'm sorry, man. Our heat went out, and we had to have a new thing put in the heater, or something. We had to buy new tires. Transmission went out. Had to put a new transmission in the car. Like whatever. Like make up some bullshit story about why you don't have money, and do not give these people money. They will, once you open that flow, they're going to keep coming back to it. Anyway, moving on.
Hey!
Hernandez was struck by gunfire and fell to the ground. Deputies approached and disarmed Hernandez, who was in possession of 3 handguns.
All right, so I don't know the time frame involved, but given the fact that someone has a shield here and there's another guy there, and we got the person with the camera view on this side of the porch, it seems like to me that there was probably some time frame involved in them organizing something going on. I really wish they would have provided the video for this instead of just a still image, because I think that would have been a good talking point there. Still want to talk about it, but just the visual of the video I think would have been a lot better. So this guy is on the porch, and this concrete brick ledge or whatever that surrounds it, that is cover for him. That can stop bullets. Of course, he'll have to remain in a very low position, the way he is, to maintain that cover, but he could be in a good position of cover and be fighting from here if need be. So, once he went down, then, one, he was somewhat concealed from the officers, and he's covered from the officers. So, in order for them to see him, they either, A, would have to maneuver, let me back out, so they would either, A, have to maneuver themselves around so that they could see the opening right here where they're coming in at. So they have to, he would have to swing out towards this away and look through that opening to see him, or they would just have to approach this ledge and get to the point where they could oversee it and then see him in there. So once he goes down, from their perspective, once he goes down, he was probably out of view to some extent. Now, how they planned it and everything and made the approach, I don't know. Again, like I said, I wish they would have provided the video on that. But if he did fall down and was concealed and covered by this, then I think the best option would be to have people maneuver around, see that opening right there, maintain lethal cover on him, and then start ordering him to come out. If he refuses to crawl out of the porch, then start using less lethal options against him to get him to comply. So if that means shooting him with beanbag, shooting him with 40mm launcher, someone coming up to the side over here and aiming a pepper spray can over in here and just fucking emptying that damn thing in this opening, or shooting pepper balls. You know, pepper ball, this would be a great place to fire pepper balls into and get him to suck in all that powder, throw in a canister over here, whatever. Get him to crawl out from behind cover into this open area to get relief from the irritants over there. The big thing is just getting him out from over there under his own power. That way he's not in a position of cover to fight from, and then he's out in the open and there's more avenues of fire for people to cover him and then take him in the custody that way. So I don't know if they attempted any of that or not, or if they just went in there and got him. The shield. So I got some mixed feelings on shields, and the mix is has more of a negative view on it. I don't think shields are that great of a thing, especially in this context right here. So they've got the opening the porch right there, and then this this side right here. What I think would have been a appropriate thing to do is, after attempting less lethals to get him to crawl out, and he doesn't do it, at that point he's either A, refusing to come out, or B, he's unable to do it. He's unable to move. Either way, I think it would have been appropriate for, or not appropriate, but I think it would have been acceptable for two guys with rifles to approach from this side right here, get right up here on the ledge, have rifles aimed right at him, providing lethal cover, and then people from the side, like they did right here, come in and grab him by the legs and yank his ass out. Only difference is these people don't carry, this dude doesn't carry a shield. I think the shield in this context is useless because they are, one, approaching a guy who is armed, and one of the gunfight rules is, if you know you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle and bring your friends with rifles. So this guy's going to a gunfight and he does not have a rifle. He has a pistol. And because he's holding the shield with one hand, that means he is operating the pistol with one hand. A pistol sucks compared to a rifle because it has a short barrel and only 2 points of contact for accuracy. Your dominant hand and your non-dominant hand. So when one hand is tied up holding something and you're only able to operate that handgun with one hand, then you've essentially taken your accuracy capability and slashed it in half. It would have been a whole lot better, in my opinion, to have two guys with rifles approach over here, provide that lethal cover. These dudes just come over here like normal, grab him by the legs, yank his ass out, pull him out here into the open, and then the rifle guys can still maintain that lethal cover on him, and then they cuff him up from there. The shield is just, I just think it's useless right now. I mean, it's not helping him a whole lot. Yeah, if this dude starts shooting, then sure, the shield could still, stop some rounds, but his head's still poking over the top of it, so his head is still exposed. Right? The biggest added benefit to the shield at this point is it could be covering his belly, where the vest, you can see the vest very clearly where it stops at. It could be covering this point and then also covering his dick. I mean, that's the only added benefit to it, really. He's already got a vest on, so I just don't see the use in shields with a whole lot of things. There's some things where I think the shields are useful for, but just so many things they don't make a whole lot of sense. And what I see a lot of times is you'll have one person on the shield, they're at the tip, right? They're making an approach to whatever it is, and then everyone else is flared out behind them in like this wedge formation. And some of them are super far out, and they're not even behind the shield at that point. They're just standing there in the open, approaching the threat or whatever, and the only protection they have is the body armor they have on themselves. And then there's that one person at the very front who has the shield. And everyone else to the left and right behind them is basically sticking out behind that shield and is not even covered by it. So what is the point then of that shield being there? So only that one person gets the benefit from the shield? It just, when it comes to stuff like that, it just makes zero sense to me. So anyway, moving on.
Fell to the ground. Deputies approached and disarmed Hernandez, who was in possession of 3 handguns. Los Angeles County Fire Department paramedics arrived at the location and rendered medical aid to Hernandez. Hernandez was transported by ambulance to a local hospital, where he received medical treatment for his injuries. The passengers in the civilian vehicle did not report any injuries as a result of the traffic collision. A ballistic vest Hernandez was wearing at the time of the incident was recovered at the scene.
Okay, a ballistic vest. It's not common to see bad guys with armor, and it's also not uncommon. Body armor is something that has been gaining in popularity and has been something that has been more easily accessible than what it was in the past. So lots of different types of armor out there. It's hard for me to say for sure what kind of armor is in this, because all we get to see is the carrier, right? We don't get to see what's actually on the inside. And even looking at this, I'm not even 100% sure which side is which. Like, this could be the front panel, or it could be the back panel. I don't really know for sure. Typically, when you see Velcro like this to the front, that's a pretty good indication that it could be a front panel. But then again, it could also be a back panel as well, so you could put a back placard on there. So it's really hard to tell. We see looks like a shoulder strap right here, the padded part. So that could have been, the front side. This could be the front side to where you could more easily unbuckle it or whatever. But I've also seen carriers where they have the buckles to the back. So it's really difficult to know for sure the orientation of these plates. Of course, criminals will come into easier contact with guns because there's more guns out there than there is body armor. And so there's more increased chances of criminals stealing guns than there is body armor. But with body armor becoming a more popular thing and being more easily accessible, that's going to increase the chances or the instances of body armor being stolen, and especially depending on what style of armor. So cheap rifle, as far as rifle plate protection goes, the cheapest option out there is steel plates. And you can leave steel plates sitting in your car for 10 years and they're still going to be effective as the day that they were made. You leave ceramic plates or poly plates in a car for 10 years, there may be some issues there. Steel is going to last a long time. I mean, this is something that could be passed down generation to generation to generation to generation, and it's still going to be good. Like, eventually, the carrier itself is going to go bad, but the steel plate that's inside it is still going to be good for years to come. So that is one benefit of steel plates, is you don't have to worry that much about it, and you can leave them in the car. And so when you leave stuff in the car, obviously that increases its chance of being stolen, which is how so many guns are stolen. So as more people buy this stuff and they just leave it in the car, as their get home kit or whatever, then that increases the odds of it being stolen. Now, the bad guys can still, go buy this stuff themselves online, have it shipped to their house, family member's house, whatever, just like the law-abiding people are doing. And that may have been something that he did. I don't know. I wish they would provide more information about how he came into possession of the armor. He either bought it himself or he stole it. I would suspect that if he did steal it, and if this is the front panel, then I would suspect that maybe whoever got it would have something on the front. Now, some people will get plate carriers and not have anything on it to run it slick. That way it's more concealable. And that could be what this guy was doing. Even if he did steal it and there was pouches on the front, he could have taken them off to make it more of a slick vest. So armor comes in some different flavors. Your most common armor is going to be soft armor. It's going to be made out of Kevlar or some kind of material that catches the bullet. And there are some companies that make soft armor panels that go into a plate carrier. But typically, if you see a plate carrier, then it's probably going to be something that's capable of stopping rifle. But just know that there are some companies that produce 3A panels that go in a plate carrier. I don't see the point in it, but it is a cheap option for people to get into. But level 2, level 2A, level 3, 3A, these are soft armor vests that they're flexible. They're the type that are worn by police officers under their uniform shirt, or even where they have an outer vest. That's the style of vest that's inside that carrier. It's either most likely a 3A vest, or it could be a 3 or a 2A. Those soft panels, those are going to stop your most common pistol rounds, so like 9mm, 40, 45. 3A will do all that, plus 44 Magnum and 10mm, and it'll actually even stop shotgun as well. None of the soft armor will stop rifle. A rifle cartridge will go right fucking through it. Rifle cartridge will go through the front and the back with no problem whatsoever. So they're only meant to stop pistol, which body armor, when it's designed, it was primarily designed for law enforcement and security. And for law enforcement and security, the most common threat as far as rounds go is going to be pistol caliber rounds. So that's why 3A and 3 and 2A are the most popular armor out there. You could probably go to a surplus store and find an old 3A vest. Or some other place, go to a gun shop, you're probably going to find like an old 3A vest up there, that could be for sale. If you look on eBay, stuff like that, like you're going to find more likely 3A vest or soft armor vest than you are plates and stuff. When it comes to stopping rifle rounds, at the bottom end of the totem pole is steel plates. Steel is the cheapest of them all, but it's also the heaviest. There's a lot of companies out there that produce these steel plates. They use AR-500 steel. These are the same kind of steel plates that you would expect on a shooting range that you would, actively be shooting at. Right? They've just taken it and they've cut it into the shape of a rifle plate and they put it in the carrier to stop bullets. Yeah, it can stop bullets, but they're heavy as shit, and when the bullet hits it, the bullet fragments. So when that happens, the fragments can go out and cause injury. And so what some of these companies do is they put basically it's bed liner for a truck. They'll paint it in that and add a coating to it, and they call it anti-spall coating. That way the bullet enters in, it fragments, explodes, that coating ends over top of it, captures all that stuff, and it doesn't go up into your neck or anything like that. So the steel is cheaper. you can handle it rough, and you can leave it in rough conditions for quite a while, and it's going to be good to go. But it's heavy as shit. And it's multi-hit. Like, you can shoot that damn thing 100 fucking times in the same spot, and a bullet is not going to go through it. Up from that is ceramic plates. Ceramic plates are a little bit more lightweight. They're a little bit more expensive because they are lightweight. They cannot take that many hits than a steel plate can. You can only fire so many rounds into a ceramic plate in the same spot before that bullet goes through. They're only meant to take a few rounds, stop those rounds, and the idea that they're being lightweight makes you more maneuverable. I mean, even like the steel plate, like I said, you can shoot that damn thing 100 times. If you're out in the open and you're being shot 100 fucking times, then you got more problems than people shooting at you. So it's unrealistic that, a steel plate would, be that much of a benefit to take that many hits. So a ceramic plate, although, it may only be able to take, a few rounds of armor, even armor piercing hits, it's not likely you're going to be taking more than 10 rifle rounds into your torso. If you're taking more than 10 rounds of, rifle cartridge into your upper torso, then you're fucked already. So it's just meant to take a few rounds. The ceramic, it cracks and it crumbles. So as far as handling goes, if you drop a plate, then that plate can become ineffective. If you drop a plate and it cracks and then you shoot it, it may not stop that round completely. It may, depending on what it is, go through. So there is some concern with ceramic plates and the handling of them. But they are more lightweight than steel, and they're good at stopping armor piercing rounds as well. At the top of that is poly plates. The poly plates are super lightweight. Actually, you can take a poly plate, throw it in water, and it'll float. Super, super lightweight. And they still stop rifle rounds. But they are also super, super expensive. So one poly plate, like just one plate to cover your front, not even your back, just one plate. The cost of one plate is probably what you can buy a whole steel armor setup for. Like, buy 2 steel plates in the carrier is what you would get if you bought just one poly plate. So they are more expensive, but they are so much nicer as far as weight and everything goes. So when it comes to poly and ceramic, those are going to be the things that are least likely to be seen on the streets because they're just so much more expensive. If you do see ceramic plates out there, then these are old sappy plates from the military that some service member hung on to, and then they took them to the surplus store to sell them. Those are one suspect. You shouldn't consider those because you don't know the history behind the ceramic plate and if they've been dropped or not. And you can't tell if they're cracked. The only way you can tell if a ceramic plate is cracked is by x-ray. So do not buy used ceramic plates. But anyway, so if this armor here is rated to stop rifle, then I'm going to say that it is most likely a steel plate.
A loaded polymer 80 Ghost Hernandez was wearing it.
Now, they don't show the other side of this plate right here. It just shows the inside part of it. This outside on this one, I don't see anything that looks like bullet holes in it. I just see what looks like lint and other material that's kind of stuck to the carrier itself. But I don't see anything that looks like a clear indication of bullet holes in it. It does look like blood right there on the buckle, but I can't see anything that looks like blood on the inside of this thing right here. So it could be that when they fired at him, the rounds came in through the side where there is no armor protection at all, and it went into his chest cavity that way, or went below where it covered and hit him in the belly, or they hit him in the arms and legs. I don't know. I wish they would have provided information on where he was exactly hit at. But there is the possibility that the armor did its job. It stopped the bullets. And that makes me think that this guy was possibly still physically capable of fighting, and he just became mentally incapacitated after some rounds hit him, and he found out it hurts like shit, and he don't like being shot, so he's going to stop doing the thing to get him shot. Now, it is possible that a round came in through the side, went into his thoracic cavity, and maybe hit his spine. That's maybe, why he didn't crawl out from the porch. That's why they had to drag him out or something like that. I don't know. Possible. Again, like I said, I wish they would have provided that information. But this is something that, although it's not very common, this is something that law enforcement needs to think about. Their adversaries being adorned with body armor. So, firearms training is to shoot center mass. Well, if their center mass is covered by armor, well, then you need to be targeting other parts of the body. And so that's either going to mean their head, or that's going to mean their pelvic region. And when you compare the head to the pelvic region is a little bit easier, I think, to hit, because it's going to be about the same width of the chest. You just have to drop your aim low and go for the pelvic girdle area and dump rounds into there. Now, you can go for the head, but obviously the head's going to be a smaller target. So body armor presents a unique problem for the good guys when the bad guys are wearing it. If all they're, and you're not going to know what kind of armor they got on. If you see something like this, there's a good chance that it's rated to stop rifle. So even if you have a rifle, you're not punching through it. So again, you're going to either have to target the head or target the belly where the vest doesn't cover. And that's if you see the vest. Now, if you see the vest, you should definitely be considering those different target zones. If you don't see the vest and there's not any indication that they have a vest on, then you're going to most likely go for what you've been trained for, which is shoot center mass. But if you start plugging a bunch of rounds in this person and they're not going down, you may need to consider picking something else to shoot at to get the desired effect. So I think that's something that should be incorporated in the firearms training. Have some targets that reactionary targets that will not go down unless you do a headshot or a pelvic shot. Moving on.
The time of the incident was recovered at the scene. A loaded polymer 80 ghost gun, 9mm semi-automatic handgun, a loaded RG Industries 38 caliber revolver, and a Smith & Wesson 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
All right, so he's got 3 guns on him. As a convicted felon, how did he come into possession of these? Well, I know he most likely did not go to a gun store and buy them from the gun store. He would have been denied, unless he stole someone else's identity and passed that background check. Most likely, how felon criminals come into possession of firearms is they either steal them or they buy them from someone who has stolen them. Or they have friends or family members who are not convicted felons go to a gun shop and buy them. And then, there are some instances where they do a private person-to-person sell where they don't have to do a background check or anything like that. They meet someone off of, Facebook or, some other way, and they buy a gun that way. Now, this whole gun show loophole thing, I mean, unless they met a random person there and bought something from them, then that could happen. But otherwise, if there's an entity at a gun show at a gun show that is selling guns as a business, they still have to be a gun dealer. They still have to go through that background check process. So just because there's a gun show going on doesn't mean that it's all 100%, private sales or anything like that. There are people with FFL licenses in there making sales, and they have to go through the same stuff just like they were in their store. But that's not even the bulk of how these criminals come into contact or come into possession of these guns. The main way they come into possession of these guns is they fucking steal them. Or they're buying them from people who've stolen them. People who leave their guns in their car, under the car seat, in the center console that doesn't even have a lock on it at all, or the glove box, and it either doesn't have a lock on it, or it does, or they don't lock it. And then the car gets broken into, and then the gun gets stolen. Or they don't even lock the fucking car. Like, they leave their gun in the car, and the car is unlocked, and then someone just comes along, opens the door, rummages around, and finds the gun. That's how a lot of them are stolen. Or they're stolen from the house in the same kind of careless manner. Someone leaves them laying on top of a nightstand, or sitting in a nightstand, and person breaks in, rummages through, finds it, and takes off with it. These two guns down here, the revolver and the M&P, I would say that's probably how these came to be in his possession. They were stolen. It's also possible that the Polymer 80 was stolen as well. Some gun person could have got this as a project, made it, and because it's a cheap ass make, they just it's going to be the car gun or whatever. They just left it in the car and it got stolen out of the car or something like that. Now, it's also possible that a person running a criminal enterprise bought this kit, made it, and is selling it on the streets to people who cannot actually go to a gun store and buy it. So, if that's happening, then someone is breaking the law of being a gun dealer without a license, and then two, selling to people who you're not supposed to be selling to. And that does happen. There are people who do this. They'll get these kits and they make these and they sell them to people who can't go buy them. Or the person himself, this Hernandez guy, could have bought this kit and did it himself. Now, the anti-gun crowd will make you think that a ghost gun is like a fucking Lego gun. Like, you just buy the box and you put the pieces together and voila, you got a working gun. No, it's not like that at all. Like, you have to put time into making this damn thing work. For one, right here and right there are two little pin slots right there. And then there's a little pin slot right there. When you buy this kit, those holes are not there. You have to make those holes yourself. So the kit comes with the frame and a little jig which guides you on where to put your drill press into and make these holes. So you have to have it. You have to have the equipment. You got to have a drill press to drill into this stuff. You got to sand down that stuff. Get rid of the burrs and everything. And then once you do that, then you have to know how to put in all the little pieces. You have to know how to put the trigger assembly together, put it in there. Put the magazine release and the spring and everything in there. Put the block and the takedowns in there. Like, you have to know how to do all that shit. And then the slide itself, you got to know how to assemble those pieces. Put the plunger and the extractor in there, and put the slide plate on there. And all. You got to know how to do all that shit, and then put the gun together. So it's not something where you can just buy this kit, slap all the pieces together really quick, and then boom, you got a working gun. Like, you have to know what the fuck you're doing. And some criminals are smart enough to do that. Other criminals are dumber than a box of rocks, and they can never figure it out. It wasn't until here recently, within the last month or so, President Biden had the rules changed. So now, when these kits are sold, as a full kit, like, you get the whole thing and all you gotta do is drill holes in it and make it work. If these are sold like that, then it has to have a serial number on it. The anti-gun crowd, they are very, very fixated on serial numbers. Now, what does a serial number do? Well, how does it help right now? Well, right now, it doesn't do shit as far as stopping crime. And it never will do anything to stop crime. Right now, the way it is, when you go to a gun store and you buy a gun, let's say you go and buy this M&P right here, you'll fill out a form with that gun dealer and do your background check, and then you can walk out that day with that gun, so long as you pass it. That paperwork you filled out stays with that gun dealer. It goes into a cabinet, and they are required to keep that stuff for X amount of time. I think it's 5 years that they're required to keep that stuff on property. After that 5 years, they can destroy that paperwork or keep it indefinitely if they want to. But they have to make it accessible to ATF by schedule. So if ATF calls and says, hey, we want to come inspect your paperwork, then they have to allow ATF to come in and inspect that paperwork. That's it. They just, the gun dealer, all they do is take that paperwork and put it in a cabinet, put it in a file box. That's it. They don't submit it to anything. It's not like they take your name, your address, your social, your license number, and enter it into a database, and then take the name, make and model, serial number of the gun and add it into this database, and then anyone, anywhere in the country can search it and find out who's got it. So you could take this gun and its serial number, and if it's not reported stolen, that serial number means dick. Like, there could be a long process. Like, you can contact the manufacturer and be like, hey, we got this gun with serial number blah 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 blah, can you tell us, who you all sold it to? And then most likely, they're going to be, oh, we sold it to such and such distributor, or, it went to such and such gun shop. And then you have to go to that gun shop and be like, hey, we found this gun with this serial number, and this serial number is this. Well, that fucking gun shop doesn't have a way to search the gun by the serial number, most likely. If they do, then, they might be able to have it in their point of sale system, come back to a name, and then they can go to the filing cabinet and find that name and see who they sold it to. But if it's been beyond 5 years and they destroy those records, well, all you know at this point is Smith & Wesson sold this gun to such and such a gun shop or such and such distributor, and such distributor sold it to such and such gun shop. That's it. That's all you fucking know. How does that help you solve a crime? It doesn't help you solve a crime. It doesn't prevent any crimes from happening. The serial number being on there, the only way it benefits anyone is if the gun is stolen. And then you can say, hey, this gun that looks like a million other fucking guns has this unique serial number on it. This unique number. No other gun that looks exactly like it has the same number. That's the only way that helps you. So that when you report it stolen and then the police come into contact with someone and they run it, and then boom, hey, this gun was reported stolen. Then they can take it. If it didn't have a serial number on it, like how many fucking Smith & Wesson M&P are out there? Fuck, I don't know. A shit ton. So that's the only way a serial number helps, is if it gets stolen or lost. The other way that it helps is more from a compliance, quality control type of thing. So, if Smith & Wesson had a bad batch, of manufacturing on certain parts, then, if multiple people started having problems and they reported, this is my gun, serial number, this broke on it, this person, same thing, this broke on it, then they can narrow it down and say, hey, well, these guns from these serial numbers match this batch of guns that we made this year and this month. And they can in turn go back and say, hey, anyone who's got a Smith & Wesson blah, blah, blah that was, made in blah, 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 or has a serial number range from here to here, it's under recall. You need to bring it to your dealer and get it fixed. Whatever. That's the only way that helps. the anti-gun crowd is so fixated on serial numbers because they want a national registry for firearms. That's what they want. They want for there to be a national database that you can go in, you can type in someone's name, and you can find out every gun they own or have ever owned. That's what they want. So that's why they're so concerned about these guns not having serial numbers on them. Because they know that if they eventually get their way, these guns are not going to have serial numbers on them, and it's going to be hard to trace who has these things. Whereas, gun database comes into play. Gun dealers start having to submit stuff to a national registry, and people are, told you got to, submit your stuff to this thing. Then they can start easily tracking stuff that way. That's what they want. They want a national gun registry. One, because they're so stupid, they think it's actually going to help in some way. But B, I would not put it past some of them to have some very bad intentions behind it, to have some very bad Hitler kind of intentions behind it. When you look at history and you see populations that have been disarmed, bad shit has happened to them by their government. Hitler did not overnight decide to start rounding up people and putting them in death camps. He started it by disarming them. He started it by having laws made about gun control. That's how it started. He took their means of protecting themselves away from them. If none of that had been done, and they started to fucking round people up, history would have been a little bit different. I think people would have been able to have the means to fight back and protect themselves. But because laws have been passed and regulations were done and guns were confiscated, people had no way of actually protecting themselves. And as you know, lots of people were rounded up and exterminated. So a national gun registry is bad. That is a Hitler wet dream. And it fucking bewilders me. It really does. When you have the left who call out, certain political people and say, "Oh, that person's a fascist. They're racist. They're going to round people up and put them in camps. They're going to kill these people and blah, blah, blah." Like they put on this show like the person is going to become the next Hitler. But in their same day, they will turn around and say, "We need to ban guns. Only the military and police need to have guns." So you mean to tell me that you truly believe that if this one person became president, who would then become in control of the military, would, if they became president, would start rounding people up and exterminating them? You believe that. But then you also say you think that only the military, who this fucking person is going to control, should have guns. People like that should not be able to reproduce. Like, if you're that fucking stupid, I don't know what to do for those people. I don't know if those people can even be helped. If they legitimately believe that one particular person is going to fucking exterminate people, but then say that only the people that person is going to control should have the guns, they're fucking dumb. The people need guns. Like I said, history has shown that the populations that have been disarmed have been victims of some bad actor or actors within a government. Anyway, moving on.
Were recovered at the scene. Hernandez had previous convictions for assault with a firearm, possession of a loaded firearm, and felon in possession of a firearm. Subsequent to this incident, Hernandez was charged with attempted murder, 4 counts of assault with a firearm on a peace officer, 3 counts of felon in possession of a firearm, shooting at an inhabited dwelling, and 2 counts of murder. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has begun a thorough and in-depth investigation into murder, the felon in possession of a firearm, shooting at an inhabited dwelling, and 2 counts of murder. The Los Angeles County 4 counts of...
All right, so this dude has a criminal background. He's a known gang member, and he has done stuff to people before. He has victimized other people. It is time that this country gets hard on crime. It is time that we start locking away violent offenders for a very long time. People like this do not need to be out and about with the rest of us. They do not deserve to walk among us because they want to victimize us. People like this just need to be put in prison and locked away for a very long time. That is my that's my YouTube correct way of saying things. You know, like being politically correct. That's my YouTube correct way of saying what I, want to happen. I can't really say what I want to happen because that would be a strike against my channel. YouTube would say that would be inciting violence or something like that. But yeah, people like this do not need to be with the rest of us. They're just going to victimize and victimize and victimize. There's no rehabilitating someone like this. There's really not. Just the same as you cannot rehabilitate a child molester, a pedophile. There's no rehabilitating someone like that. Someone who has gotten to this age and has lived this life, there's no rehabilitating them. The safest thing to do is to keep them locked away for an extremely long period of time, if not indefinitely. If they're going to be released at some point, then it needs to be after a long period of time, and preferably when they're old. Reason why I say that is because when you look at the streets, you do not see old people out there gangbanging like you do young people. Now, I'm not saying it's completely void of any old people out there doing gangbanging shit. There may be some 70-year-old gangbanger out there for all I know. But there's not that many of them like there are between the ages of 15 and 25. Like, you go down the block, you're going to see some young cats on the block trapping. You're not going to see 70-year-old fucking dudes with walkers on the block selling dope. They might sell dope out of their house, but they're not going to be on the block doing it. They're not going to be car hopping. They're not going to be doing a bunch of other shit. Now, they may be doing some other stuff that's more conducive for their age, something they can more likely easily get away with, because their moral compass is still going to be fucked, even after all those years. But they're just not going to be that much of a violent threat to the rest of society as the 15 and 25-year-olds are. The old people, they know they can't run the game on the streets anymore. They know that the 15 and 25-year-olds will just straight up slaughter them. There's no respect on the streets. Like, 15-year-old gangbanger, 20-year-old gangbanger, 25-year-old gangbanger don't give a shit about an elderly gangbanger, 70-year-old good dude. Like, there's no respect there. They will straight up murder them the same as they would another 15 to 25-year-old gangbanger. And it's going to be much easier for them to do it. So they know they can't fight very well. They can't run from the police very well. 15-year-old can beat feet real good and outrun a lot of officers. 70-year-old, maybe with a walker or a cane, nope, not going to make it very far. So just by their age and their physical limitations, they know they can't run the game very well anymore. And even if they did try, they're not going to be that successful because they're just not at their peak physical condition to do so. And also with men, testosterone starts dropping off at a certain age. And so you do see a lot of times like these dudes who have been picked up at a young age, young, dumb, just full of testosterone. They get older, a lot of that testosterone starts going away, and they start thinking a little bit more clearly. So you can't have someone who was at a younger age who was just, fucking all about that shit, get to an older age, and they're like, yeah, I lived a stupid life. I did some stupid shit. But that does not necessarily mean that they're safe to release at that point, because, like I said, their moral compass is still going to be fucked, and they're still going to most likely do things that they're not supposed to be doing. And that can include victimizing people. Criminals do not fear the criminal justice system. They see it as an annoyance. I mean, that's why they run, right? They're not running from the police because they fear what's going to happen to them. They just don't want to get caught because it's an annoyance. They know that if they get caught, even though they're not going to be spending a whole lot of time out of the game, they're still going to have to spend some little bit amount of time out of the game, and may have to be forced to do a dog and pony show with probation and parole. They don't want to do that shit. It's just an inconvenience to them. So that's why they still run. That's why they still try to avoid shit. But as far as fearing the criminal justice system, they're not afraid of it at all. They know that they're going to get a bond. They get a reduced bond. They get time credit. If they get time credit for bond, they spend so many days in jail. Each day shaves off $100 on bond or $50 on bond, whatever. They know that. They know they're probably going to be able to get a plea deal. They're not going to be doing the full time. They get a plea deal, have their charges amended down to something, whatever. When it comes to, if they do get, charged with robbery and it's going to stick, they know they're not doing the full sentence. They know that. They know they're going to get a low sentence, and then they know that when they get to prison, they're not going to be doing the full time. They'll do a little bit and then get out early. They'll be able to, while they're in prison, do programs like take a GED class or a substance abuse class, do some work in the prison, whatever, and that's going to shave time off of their sentence. So they could be sentenced to 5 years. The court could say you only have to do 70% of your sentence, and then on top of that, they only have to do 70% of that 5 years, and that 70% that they have to do, they can even reduce that even further by completing these SAP, like substance abuse programs, and all these other different things that gives them time off on their sentence, work a job, like work in the prison or the kitchen or something like that, and then boom, that could shave off a whole year or two from their sentence, and they spend almost no time at all. Then they come out, they could be on parole. They can make parole. They could be eligible for that. Get out early. Whatever. So they know that it's not going to be that bad. Well, you need to change that. We need to change that, especially for violent offenses. If you commit robbery, you fucking shoot at people, stab people, try to kill people, burglary, whatever, like legit crimes against people that could cause harm to people. It needs to be mandatory minimum sentencing. So like, let's say robbery. Let's say robbery says 10 years. Well, it needs to be 10 years flat. Like, not a day less. And it needs to be made to where if you act up in prison, you cause a problem while you're there, you're a behavioral issue, you start fighting people in there, that extends your time. So instead of going in there and just sitting around and participate, like SAP, Substance Abuse Program. all you gotta do is fucking show up to that class and you pass, and then you get time shaved off. Like, how fucking easy is that? Like, you gotta be a complete fuck up to fail SAP. It shouldn't be just, attend something and then get free time. Like, what else does this motherfucker have to do? They're in prison. Yeah, of course they're going to be able to sit in a class and complete it. That's not fair. That's not right. Instead, that whole 10 years they're there, they need to be on good behavior. Because if not, boom, you got an extra month added. Boom, another month. Boom, another month. Boom, another month. If you cannot maintain yourself and act right when you are under such close supervision, then how the fuck are you going to act out in society when you do not have that close supervision? But until this country's people comes together and starts making stuff like that happen, we are going to see a continuous rise in violent crime. We're going to see a continuous rise in these violent offenders attacking police. We're going to see a rise in more people becoming victims to these violent offenders. And a lot of times these violent offenders, they just victimize other violent little shitheads, like gang stuff, all right? Gangbangers fighting gangbangers and drug dealers shooting drug dealers. That's the bulk of what's going on. Now, some of them do go out and hurt actual innocent actors, mugging people on the street, stuff like that, robbing stores and everything. But for the bulk of it, it is, criminals against criminals. But there are a lot of real, true, innocent victims out there who fall victim to little assholes like this. Alright. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.